With a top WWE star accused of having a bad attitude and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Mentioning AEW being in competition with WWE, AEW star Powerhouse Hobbs told Chillin' with Ice, "We're on the same level as them. We're their competitors. They're on national TV, and we're on national TV. We go head to head. We're right on them. We've beat them in ratings at times. We're right there on their neck. There are two major companies in this business, and it's WWE and AEW. We're right there with them. When people say, 'Do you ever want to go to WWE?' I tell people, we're right there with them. If you're watching AEW or watching WWE, I think any wrestling fan should watch all wrestling. You're getting all types of flavors. We're right there on their neck." Talk about Ric Flair's AEW debut, Jake Roberts noted on his podcast, "Well, we knew it happened sooner or later. I mean, Christ, it's crazy not to, and it fits in with the storyline, Sting and all that, so I'm happy for him, man. So it depends on what he's doing." Noting his issue regarding celebrities being in the WWE Hall of Fame, Jake Roberts said on the Snake Pit podcast, "Can't the wrestlers have one thing? I mean, we don't get the money. We do. Come on. That's what gets me. They'll pay one of these wankers $25,000 or $50,000 to go in. Well, what about me? Mr. T in the Hall of Fame, though, he gets in for one or two matches. Whatever. This is for guys that have gone out there and put the work in, that aren't even involved in the business getting in." When asked if it was okay to have Andy Kaufman in the WWE Hall of Fame, Roberts simply replied, "F no." Going over how Vince Russo handled wrestling talent, former WCW president Eric Bischoff said on his 83 Weeks podcast, "Some of the WCW talent at the time wanted to give Russo more time to get comfortable and get to know Russo better. That's fine too, you're a professional and that's what you should do. I think there were also a number of talents who first started listening to Russo when they first started working with him, and they figured it out, as did I, that this guy is a fraud. There is nothing under the hood when it came to his original ideas. He just didn't understand the product." This is despite him claiming that he wrote all of the WWE's shows, even though he just took a look at it and signed off on it. I don't believe that at all. Talk about her close friend Ronda Rousey. Shayna Baszler told WrestleZone, "I think Ronda Rousey I think she's underappreciated. I think people like to hate her for whatever reason, and it's been that way in MMA. It's because she doesn't mince her words. People like to because they don't like her personally. They like to try to erase what she's done for women's sports, women's combat sports, the UFC, and WWE. They like to minimize that just because they don't like her personally, and I think that's a shame. I might not be on the best terms with her, but I will never deny that she did a lot for women's combat sports. I think she's underappreciated in some sense." Recalling a funny story involving John Cena, Jonathan Coachman said this to Chris Van Vliet, "We used to go to Europe twice a year, April and November, 10 days, 10 different shows, and John Cena just became the world champion. Well, Ric Flair got his hooks into him, and he's like, 'If you're going to be the world champion, you got to act like a world champion. You get to pay for all the drinks. You're making the most money.' I said, 'John, how much money have you spent on this trip?' He goes, 'Well, I checked my account today, and it was $35,000. Wow. And I said, $35,000? He goes, 35,000 euros, which back then it was like 2 to 1. So it was like $70,000. Revealing what he's been up to since he's been away from WWE, Big E told the Undrafted All-Stars podcast show to give you the backstory. So George Floyd happens, and a lot of us are sitting with these emotions. I had so many of my friends I was reaching out to, and we would talk about run-ins with the police. We would talk about all the things we dealt with. I think for a lot of people, education, especially Black history, can be filled with pain and trauma, so we wanted to make it fun and engaging and give you an entertaining story. That's the goal, is to teach our kids these stories because they need to know about the Ruby Ridges of the world. They need to know about the James Baldwins of the world. Especially in Florida, you have too many people who are trying to erase our history. They're trying to pretend like it never happened. We want to make sure these stories are never forgotten. When it comes to upcoming plans for the NXT Stand and Deliver event, WrestleVotes wrote that on the heels of the CW announcement, I'm told discussions have taken place regarding NXT Stand and Deliver premium live event scheduled for WrestleMania weekend. Those discussions have been about the placement of the show. Source states there is support for the show to open the weekend and be held on Thursday night at Wells Fargo Center. I was told while it makes sense to some, it's not ideal for others. We'll see how it turns out. Giving a suggestion to AEW and how they can stop plans from leaking, Kevin Nash noted on his Click This podcast, "See, I don't understand that." So I read into it and people were saying like, you gave us 3 days to know that this match was going to happen. Like they didn't. You and I could say we are going to have a match July 7th. If you and I don't know what the finish is, we don't have anything to give. It's real simple. I'm going to tell you guys how you do this. You tell 2 or 3 people the wrong information and it gets out and you know who the rat is. That's like booking 101. Sit people down and tell them, hey, don't let this get out, but this is what we are doing. And if it gets out and you only tell 3 people, guess what? Voila. Previously, it was reported that the NWA may have tainted their relationship with the CW when trying to attain a deal for the company. This is due to the NWA having a segment during a pay-per-view event where stars can be seen pretending to snort lines of cocaine. As Ringside News wrote, House of Wrestling reports that this specific scene reportedly irked some higher-ups at the CW, leading them to advocate for NWA programming to be exclusively available on the CW app rather than broadcast on television as initially planned. When the negotiations between the two parties were in progress, it was communicated to Billy Corgan that the executives were solely interested in the television program and would not review the pay-per-views. Following the controversial segment, numerous individuals expressed their concerns on social media platforms, catching the CW's attention. A source indicated that there is a 90% likelihood that NWA programming will be confined to the CW app rather than traditional television. It's now been said that House of Wrestling was also told that several NWA contracts are set to come up in June and that Corgan intends to start conversations to re-sign many of them in February. Some of those talents are frustrated by Corgan's leadership and are already looking into other places they can work when their deals are done in hopes of not having to re-sign. WWE announcing a deal to bring NXT to the CW next year has not helped with how talent feels about re-signing. Billy Corgan withdrew from those close to him yesterday and did not want to discuss the situation. Following his call-up to Monday Night Raw from NXT, Julius Creed posted a picture of his WWE contract which reads, "To whom it may concern, the signee of this superstar contract hereby understands that this legally binding contract is obligated to the terms and conditions as a superstar/performer employed by World Wrestling Entertainment and its subsidiary brand Monday Night Raw and agrees to perform said duties until the contract expires or is terminated. The WWE reserves right to terminate the contract at any point and without reason. This contract is also void if it is entered under duress or coercion. This document shall serve as a legal and binding agreement amongst all parties signed to Monday Night Raw on November 6th, 2023. These parties include Julius Creed, Brutus Creed, and Ivy Nile, previously belonging to the NXT talent roster. This contract is drawn in the state of Connecticut, and all laws of Connecticut shall apply to its execution, arbitration, or contest. Speaking about LA Knight on his Hall of Fame podcast, Booker T made an interesting revelation, noting that I've heard guys say LA Knight, he's got a bad attitude. I don't know about this guy, he's got a bad attitude. My thing is this, I've never really cared about getting heat with the boys as long as the boss liked everything that was going on. If the boss liked it, I was cool. It would be added that Ringside News exclusively reported in July that we reached out to confirm this story about LA Knight. We were told by a tenured member of the creative team that he doesn't understand the WWE locker room yet. He'll get straightened out. BWE noted on X to say, let's shut this down. He's absolutely loved and very self-focused. The bona fide WWE insider's note was that LA Knight is driven, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have heat on him with some, despite being absolutely loved by others. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.